Welcome to Norman, Oklahoma. Welcome to GamedayU. Welcome to Bedlam. Welcome to Championship Saturday. It's a big day in college football, and it's a big day for us. Our last show of the season, guys. You gonna miss it?
It's a little sad.
I got a tear running down. But
It's bittersweet. I'm Mason Prince, your host for the day, joined to my right by Cody Crace, to my left by Drew Farley and Reagan Ledbetter. We got a lot to talk about today, so let's go ahead and get right to it. The big game last night, the Pac-12 championship, Oregon, Arizona. Arizona was Oregon's only loss the whole season. Oregon's played very well since then, and Oregon just completely annihilated them last night. Reagan, how did Mariota play?
Well, Marcus was Marcus last night. Once again, I mean, the guy had 5 touchdowns. He had 2 through the air. He had 3 on the ground. I mean, just another Heisman moment for the guy. I mean, no matter what the stage is, he took a loss to Arizona and turned it around and came back and won in the game that actually mattered. And now there's a chance that they could move up a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. Well, Drew, what were you looking at?
Yeah, obviously Mariota's spectacular. We're talking about another Heisman moment, but Oregon really put all the pieces together. Obviously, they're going to lean on their quarterback. He's phenomenal, but the defense really picked it back up. Young playmakers like Royce Freeman, over 100 yards again. Just phenomenal. They're stacked with young talent, but it's just Mariota leans on them offensively, but defensively, I really was impressed. They held an explosive Arizona team to just 13 points.
Yeah, well, right now Oregon's the 2 seed. This big win for them in the Pac-12. What does that mean for them for the playoff?
yeah, I mean, I think that automatically puts them in. I think they're in for sure. There's no doubt about it. That loss to Arizona early in the season was kind of erased with that trouncing that they had last night.
Yeah,
but I think what you're looking at now is possibly moving up to that number 1 seed and then getting a game out on the West Coast in that Rose Bowl where their fans can travel down. Because if Alabama struggles with Missouri today, or Missouri possibly beats Alabama, I think you look for Oregon is in a prime spot to move up to that number 1 spot.
Yeah, well, Oregon had a great game, and it's funny that you talk about Alabama because Alabama, as you know, in the SEC championship against a Missouri team that struggled against Arkansas last week, but won the game when it mattered most. Matty Malk brought the Tigers back, but they're playing an Alabama team that kind of got ran all over in their last game against Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing I look for in this match is actually on the other side of the ball. I love Missouri's defense. Shane Ray and that defensive front, they're good at getting pressure. Can Blake Sims continue to have the phenomenal season, thanks in part to Lane Kiffin, who's a finalist for the Assistant of the Year award. So,
I mean, this is a game that Alabama is very familiar with. I mean, how often do they play in the SEC championship game?
Right.
I mean,
Seems like every year.
Every year, it's either them or Auburn. And for me, the big story in this game is going to be if Missouri can take advantage of a second shot at an SEC championship against a high-powered SEC West team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I like what Drew said. I think it's about that Missouri defense. If they can hold up, because that Alabama offense is different than what we've seen in the past with Lane Kiffin. They are firing on all cylinders right now. Amari Cooper could be, first or second best player in the country right now. He's unguardable. No one can cover him. And so, but Missouri, number 19 in total defense in the entire country. They played well. Beat a hot Arkansas team last weekend to get to the SEC championship.
Very hot.
So I think they're kind of have that momentum going in. So I think it'll be a tougher game than what people expect.
Yeah, an Arkansas team that shut out its last 2 ranked opponents. That was very impressive. And, Matty Malk leading the charge when it mattered most. It's going to be fun to see Blake Sims and Matty Malk go up against each other. Missouri did not have a good first half against Arkansas, and Alabama did not play a very good game against Arkansas. So that's, if you want to, compare the two matchups, that's what you're looking at. But last week against Auburn, Blake Sims turned it on when it mattered most, and Amari Cooper could not be covered. Missouri, if they want to win this game, they have to cover Amari Cooper.
Yeah, they need to put three guys on.
Yeah, they got to force Alabama to run the ball. You got to force Bama to be a ground and pound team, or else you're just not going to be.
And that's kind of what Alabama wants to be. They want to be that ground and pound team. So with that weapon in Amari Cooper on the outside, and people try to game plan to stop him, they'll just run it right down your throats.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about it every week. The undefeated Florida State Seminoles.
Here we go again.
Still undefeated. Jameis Winston continually pulling it out.
yeah.
Yep.
And guess what? They're in the ACC championship game against a hot Georgia Tech team who no one saw coming. No one saw coming. They're quietly the number 11 team in the nation. The ACC championship game is today, 7 p.m. ESPN. Guys, who you got?
Well, Georgia State, like you said, is surging. 5 straight wins, red hot, winning by double digits, blowing teams out. They took down Clemson like 28-7 just a couple weeks ago. Incredible performance on both sides of the ball. This is a balanced football team, and they're very impressive. That being said, Florida State, until they lose, I just have to give them the nod because as long as they continue to pull it out, and I think it's going to be another phenomenal game. I think it's going to be another close game. But I have to respect what they've been able to do so far. So I give Florida State the slight nod.
That's right.
I mean,
Reagan, who are you looking at?
I agree with the Georgia Tech thing. They went into Athens, knocked off the in-state rival
Absolutely.
Georgia, but I've picked against Florida State the whole
Yeah.
time.
You and everyone else.
Every time they end up winning. So for the first time, I'm actually going to pick Florida State to win this
There you
game,
go.
Okay.
and we'll see if things change.
Yeah, Cody, who do you get? Who are you looking at?
I think I'm gonna go. I mean, I've been one of the guys that's been on the Florida State bandwagon this entire year, just because they haven't lost. They've won 25, 26 games in a row. Jameis Winston hasn't lost as a starter. An ACC championship game, big game, famous Jameis. I think he's gonna step up. But what I'll be looking at is I think everybody in Big 12 country will be rooting for Georgia Tech, because if Florida State loses, they're number 4 right now. Florida State loses, you look for Baylor, TCU to slide up. Big 12 could possibly get 2 teams in.
Yeah, I saw an interesting
That's true.
stat today. No quarterback has ever won a national championship with more than 15 interceptions.
Yeah.
Josh Heupel threw that in 2000. Jameis Winston,
17.
There you go.
on the season. So that's what I'm looking at. Jameis Winston, obviously not having the year that he had last year, but if you look at the numbers, he's playing well. He's playing well when it matters. But this Florida State team and Georgia Tech, it's hard to match up with a triple option team.
Yeah.
We've seen it with Georgia
That's
Tech
true.
all year. They
Yeah.
mismatch with teams. They get teams frustrated. You prepare for the triple option all week, and it's a monster that you can't handle until you see it on the field
Yeah.
on Saturdays.
And another point is, Florida State has been getting down in the first half by 2 touchdowns, 10 points. With Georgia Tech, with that ground and pound offense, that triple option, they'll have way more ball control. I look for Georgia Tech, if they do get up, to try to just grind that clock and limit Jameis Winston's possessions.
One of the top teams in game control
Yeah,
in the
you're
country.
absolutely. Well, when you have the triple option
Where-
like that,
Where do they come
You
from?
can be
That's what I
athletic
want
on-
to know.
yeah.
where did Georgia Tech come
You
from?
can be athletic on defense, but if you're running the wrong direction, it doesn't matter.
Nope.
So.
Well, a team from the teams that are in the playoff to a team that's trying to get into the playoff. Number 5, Ohio State, the JT Barrett-less
Right.
Ohio State Buckeyes against Wisconsin and Melvin Gordon tonight for the Big Ten championship. It's a big game, has big implications for Ohio State. They're trying to impress the voters. They're trying to prove that they're the same team without JT Barrett. What are you looking at, Drew?
Well, and here's the thing about the JT Barrett thing is they leaned on him at times, but they have phenomenal playmakers all around him. I still think, especially defensively, Ohio State is a very good team. That defensive line, Joey Bosa, Noah Spence, guys like that, they're athletic on both sides of the ball. But without JT Barrett, I really think I have to lean on a guy who I'm very high on Wisconsin's team in Melvin Gordon. I just think that Wisconsin, they're underrated defensively, play great team defense. I think they're going to get the win today in a very, very hard-fought game, a sloppy game today in the Big Ten.
All right, Reagan, what are you looking at?
Well, I mean, Ohio State does have a good defense, but at the end of the day, it comes down to Melvin Gordon. I mean, the guy is lights out. They have not faced that kind of guy yet. I mean, I just think that the X factor in this game is going to be Melvin Gordon and the fact that JT Barrett's not going to be the starting quarterback. So that's
You're absolutely right. What do you got?
Yeah, and I think Cardale Jones is going to be a big factor. I don't think he'll be the main factor. I think they're going to try to limit how much you see of him, like his running, his throwing. I think they're going to try to rely on that defense. But I just don't see how Ohio State will be able to get it done without their quarterback that broke the Big Ten single season record for touchdowns accounted for. I just don't see how you're going to make up for that lost production. And when you have a player like Melvin Gordon on the other side, who's going to be a Heisman finalist, he's going to be in New York with 2,260 yards on the season. I mean, I think it'll be Wisconsin.
Yeah, before Ohio State turned it on against Michigan last week, that first half that Michigan had was kind of telling for an Ohio State defense. They kind of did whatever they wanted. So a big game in the Big Ten. So let's go ahead and look at the Big 12. They don't have a conference championship game. We do know one thing. The champion of the Big 12 will be decided today. We just don't know how many there will be.
Right.
So today, Iowa State, TCU, 11 a.m., early kickoff, TCU. How much do they win by is my question.
Well, and this is fun for me. We were talking before the show. The last time Iowa State beat a ranked team away, it was TCU 2 years ago. 15th ranked TCU. They beat them by double digits. But I don't see that happening this year. This TCU team is incredible. They're really good. Trevon Boykin is a Heisman contender. Their defense, Gary Patterson, it's overwhelming. I think they cover this.
Yeah, this is not the TCU team of 2 years ago. I think they're going to win by 30 or more. I mean, we've seen Iowa State play in person, and TCU is going to just, I mean, Trevon Boykin's just going to torch them, I feel like.
Cody, what are you looking at?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's not by how much TCU is going to win by, it's by are they going to put the show mercy for Iowa State? Because we were there, we were in Ames, saw OU put
It's
up
not a good football
510
team.
rushing
Yeah,
yards on
it's
them.
not a good football team.
So I really look for something similar from TCU. I just look for them to just try to crush Ohio State and just try to further their position in that college football playoff to say, hey, because they did have that struggle game against KU 34-30. So I think they're going to try to bounce back from that and just, crush that team that they're supposed to crush.
A couple years ago, Oklahoma State, undefeated,
Yep,
goes
there you
into
go.
Ames, Iowa, ready to make a national championship run and loses. So it's something to look at. I don't think it's going to happen. But Kansas State and Baylor also played today. One of the biggest games on the
Yep.
docket. What are you looking at, Drew?
To me, this is just, it's about Baylor proving a point. We've heard a lot about Baylor in the news recently. They hired a PR firm to help build build up their brand. They build up the brand tonight. Kansas State is a very good football team. They're a top 10 football team. They're in your new stadium. You've got game day, national eyes on you. I think the Baylor offense puts the pieces back together. They don't show the cracks that they've shown against Texas Tech and a couple weeks ago, even at times against Oklahoma State early on. But I think Baylor rolls
What are you
against
looking
Kansas
at?
State.
What are you looking
See,
at
I think
right now?
Baylor's going to roll, but I think that they're going to need to win by 50 points against Kansas State if they want a chance to somehow leap TCU. I mean, I think they should because of head-to-head, but I don't know if they will. But
Cody, what are you looking
Yeah, can I first start off by saying how dumb it is that the Big 12 won't
at? Yeah.
submit a conference champion to
Yeah.
the playoff committee?
Yeah.
I think that's going to – I don't think now – I mean, a week ago we were thinking that's going to hurt them. They might be left out. But now it looks like one or possibly two will get in. But I think you look at it, and I think Baylor was going to roll. But when TCU beat K-State 41-20, beat them by 21 points, I think they're going to have to put on a show and crush Baylor for the committee to look at that and say, hey, that's a fair comparison between those two teams.
Yeah, well, Baylor needs a win and some help. But coming up next, we're going to talk about our favorite Bedlam games. We're going to talk about Bedlam. We're going to look at the matchups. We're going to look at more college football playoffs and pick our Heisman guys. I'll give you a hint. Mine's Mariota. Stick with us. Welcome back to GamedayU. We're here. Cody Grace, Drew Farley, Reagan Ledbetter. We're going to talk about the game that we're here to cover today, Bedlam. And this is a big game for both teams. It may not seem that way, but it really is. What does this game mean to both these teams?
Well, for me, obviously, you think about Oklahoma State. They're trying to get a bowl. Those are 5-6 right now.
Yeah.
They've lost 5 straight. They don't want to lose 6 straight. They don't want to go 5-7 on a season, miss a bowl. That's going to be dangerous waters. But on the same token, Oklahoma, they're fighting for pride. They're fighting for senior day. They got a lot of guys leaving, especially on the offensive line. So I think it's pride too, because people have thrown around that Bob Stoops may be in danger. But again, we were talking in the break. If you're talking about if Oklahoma wins today, that's 9. They're setting up themselves up for another 10-win season, despite the fact that at times this season they may have felt like it was a disappointing season. And yeah, national championship hopes, but you can still salvage and say we won 10 games. It's a young team, and moving forward, it's great to build on it.
I mean, this is all about in-state respect. I mean, half the state is orange, half is crimson. And as Zach Sanchez was saying earlier this week, it's a big deal because when you walk into the barbershops, you hear, oh, OU, oh, OSU. I mean, just the little things about this rivalry makes it a big, big deal. And the fact that it's a little over an hour away from each other, I mean, there's just a lot that comes into this. And what's kind of interesting for me is OSU is only a little over an hour away, but yet they gave back 1,000 tickets to OU.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
They're having a rough year.
what happened to the fan support? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
if you've seen their home games at all this season, you
yeah,
wouldn't
a
be
little
really
empty,
surprised.
little empty.
Yeah, it's a little empty.
Yeah, and this was like the season that wasn't for OU. I mean, after that Sugar Bowl, talks of OU getting back to that national prominence, and making a run at the national championship. They were preseason ranked top 4, and then it just kind of went all downhill. So it's kind of a lost season for OU. But then it would be like rubbing salt in the wound if you lose to OSU,
Yeah.
and when you're supposed to have a really good year, you end up having a bad year. So I really think a loss for OU would look worse than for OSU, because I think OSU's kind of accepted that they're 5-6. They're not very good. Gundy's kind of come out and said, hey, we're not a very good team. You can see by the fan support, returning 11 tickets, they're kind of disinterested in this game because they all feel like they're going to lose.
Yep.
So I feel like if OU goes out and loses, then it's a much bigger disappointment to them because of just you lose to your rival.
Yeah.
And then you have to hear OSU people talking about it
It's
for a year.
expectations. It'd be a massive upset to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Growing up in the state of Oklahoma, what this game means to me is when you're born, you're either a Cowboy or you're a Sooner, and
Yeah.
you better decide real quick what you are.
There's no in
And
between.
there's no in between.
No.
there is not.
Yeah.
And now that we're members of the media, you kind of get to see it from both sides. But growing up, it was weird to see. You know, my parents, diehard OSU fans. My uncle, diehard OSU fan. My parents' parents, diehard OU fans.
There you go.
It divides families.
Yeah.
It divides friendships.
Your parents
divided.
OSU fans?
Yeah, my parents are OSU fans. They went to OSU. Hi, mom and dad.
Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie and Leanne, OSU, pistols firing.
Oh no.
So
Pokes.
it's a big game in the state of Oklahoma. It might not be looked at nationally as a big game, but it's Bedlam for a reason, and the games are always crazy. And we're gonna pick our favorite game, a little later. But this game just means so much to the state of Oklahoma. And a couple years ago, it meant a whole lot nationally when both teams were ranked inside the top 15.
Yeah.
OU needs this win to set them up for another 10-win season. OSU needs this win to get bowl eligible. So it's really exciting. It's going to be a fun game. But let's go ahead and talk now about our favorite games of this whole Bedlam series. 109th time today that they will be meeting. You got to pick one.
Yeah.
Drew, what is your favorite Bedlam
And I want
game?
to tell you guys, I did dig. I tried to look for a great game, but I still am in love with the 2012
You should
game.
be.
The
The
one
overtime,
and only overtime game in the entire series. And it was phenomenal because Blake Bell, the Belldozer, phenomenal guy. With 4 seconds left, they score, send it to overtime. Then Brennan Clay on a draw, who did nothing all day long. It was possession after possession. They were just answering back. And Landry Jones on senior day, they said, Landry, our defense is bad. Please do something. Jalen, 2 transfers, Jalen Saunders, Justin Brown, and the 5th-year senior who was never appreciated the way he should have been, led that team with 500 yards over their rivals, sent them to the Cotton Bowl. We don't need to talk about the Cotton Bowl and that A&M murder, but yeah, it was a phenomenal game. And if you're in that crowd that night, that was one of the hypiest it's ever been. It's the first time since Tech, the years prior, that they played jump around at the end of the game. Yeah. It was just a phenomenal environment in Norman.
Jalen Saunders with a big punt return as well. So the game had everything. It had special teams, it had defense, it had offense, it had a whole lot of offense.
Yeah.
But all right, so Drew's is 2012. Cody, what is your game?
Oh man, mine is the 2010 game.
2010,
I don't know
yeah,
if a lot of
shootout.
people remember that one.
Yeah, it's way back when.
But this was when Landry Jones was a sophomore. This is when we were going to the Fiesta Bowl. Took us to the Fiesta Bowl. But it was one of those games that OU scored 23 points in the fourth quarter. OSU scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. Landry Jones at the with like around 5 minutes left in the game hit Cameron Kinney on an 86-yard touchdown pass on like 3rd and 18, and he took it to the house to put Sooners up. And we all thought, hey, that's the game. And then nope, Justin Gilbert returned the kickoff right back down for score. And then on the next possession, about 2 minutes left, people thought, hey, Kevin Wilson's just going to try to run the clock out. Nope, play action hits James Hanna on a 75-yard touchdown pass. And that was ultimately the winner. Yeah. But I just remember that game. That game was crazy. I was watching it with a bunch of OSU fans, so it kind of made it a little bit sweeter when we won, and especially in that fashion.
It was great. Ryan Broyles had a great game.
I mean, it was an awesome game.
It was a great game. Reagan, what is your game?
Well, I didn't dig much. So I'm going to go with last year because it was on the road. Mike Gundy's looking at, I might get my second win finally. He was up almost the entire time. The game had special teams, it had defense, it had offense. OU had 3 quarterbacks. Like I said, it was cold once again. It had drama. But that touchdown to Jalen Saunders from Blake Bell was just
late in the game.
Was just unbelievable.
Yep.
And my favorite part of that entire game was after Stryker picked up that last-second touchdown, the male cheerleader trying to trip him will never get old. That picture was all over Twitter, and that right there describes
snowballs.
Bedlam.
And the student section was throwing snowballs, turkey legs.
Turkey legs.
There was turkey legs on the ground. So.
And don't forget, Michael Honeycutt, as we just saw,
That's right.
the touchdown. Special teams plays from Jalen Saunders and Michael Honeycutt with the touchdown reception.
You see his face after that?
That game had everything.
Whoa.
That was a great game. It was a great feeling watching that game.
About 6 degrees.
I remember being snowed in at my apartment and watching that game, and it was a fun time. I'm gonna go way back when, back to when Reagan was in diapers, the kid over here, 2001. And my game is different because OSU won this game in 2001. OU.
There's only 17 of them.
OU lined up for another second straight national title appearance. 16-13 OSU. Josh Fields. A great game for Oklahoma State. Minute 36 left in the game. He throws to OSU's all-time leading receiver, Rashawn Woods, for the touchdown. Nate Hibble, for the Sooners, was sacked 7 times.
Wow.
And he threw 3 interceptions.
There's your play right there.
There it is,
Yep.
right there, Rashawn Woods. It was a great game. There you see Rocky Kalmus right there shaking his head, not knowing what to do. But that game was a huge win for Les Miles and a huge win for that Oklahoma State program. Put them on the map for a lot of people in the state of Oklahoma. Helped with recruiting. I guarantee it helped Les Miles get the job at LSU.
Yeah.
So that is my game. It's a very, very great game. I remember watching with my parents, and they were so happy. They saw back when Barry Sanders was with Oklahoma State.
Oh,
They saw Thurman Thomas.
Yeah.
It was just great for them to watch that game and get OSU the win. But let's go ahead and talk about the game today. Look to the present, not the past. Which team's season looks worse with a loss? And if he loses, is this Mike Gundy's last game as a Cowboy?
I mean, I think obviously Oklahoma State, the Sooners should win. If the Sooners lose, it's going to look bad as a single game. But if you look at their season, obviously if Oklahoma State loses, that's a failed season. And Mike Gundy, I don't think is on the hot seat like we talked about earlier. He's admitted, he's like, it's rough. We're in a transition. They have a good recruiting class base coming in next season. They have young guys playing for them right now. I think Mike Gundy and what he's done for the program so far has earned the respect to weather this kind of storm of the 2014 season. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, I also think OSU's season looks worse because, I mean, you're supposed to be a powerhouse playing up against your rival OU. I mean, Oklahoma's a big football state. And I just feel that not even making a bowl game affects your recruiting because why would you want to come to OSU when out on the road you have OU, who you're almost going to guarantee 10 wins a season?
You can play at OSU.
Yeah.
Okay. But
That's what they're telling.
But honestly, this is the last place Mike Gundy wants to play right now with the situation.
Yeah.
He is 0-7 in Norman. I just feel that, I mean, he's not filling the stadium.
Yeah.
He's one Bedlam win. I think that
So hot seat for you.
he's on the hot seat.
You're right. What do you
Yeah, and I
think?
think what Drew kind of talked about, they're young. They played 22 freshmen this year. They're one of the youngest teams in the entire country, youngest team in the Big 12 by far. And so I think this kind of transition period was expected from them to have kind of a down year. I don't know if 5-7 or 6-6 was going to be expected, and I don't think anybody expected the Big 12 to be as good as it is this year. But so that's why I think OU's season looks worse with a loss is because of all those reasons that I mentioned. Because the team is so young. Gundy kind of said it's already a failed season. They might not make a bowl. So if you lose to a team that might not make, that is fighting to be bowl eligible, I mean, it looks bad. And the OU coaches have already gone through so much talk in the media from fans. Hey, this person needs to be fired. This person needs to be fired. So if Bob loses to OSU and during this type of year that OSU is having, man, I don't even want to know what the headlines will be.
Like Gundy said, this is not a good Oklahoma State football team. Their defense is terrible. It's not. Their secondary is awful. We want to talk about how bad OU secondary is. You need to take a
OSU's
look
is
at
worse.
OSU secondary and reevaluate yourself if you're an OU fan.
Yeah.
You need help if you're Gundy. You got to have some help from your defense. And what we usually see from Gundy's teams are a lot of points and some pretty good defense to keep him in the game. Now that he doesn't have an offense, you see how bad the defense is. So it's a little different. We'll talk way more about this game later on in the show. But coming up next, we have a package from Taylor Newcomb. She was at Bob Stoops' weekly press conference. We're going to talk about how Samaje Perine bounces back from the next week.
Yeah, we'll break it down.
It's going to be a fun time. We're here at GamedayU. Stick with us.